It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Again, big winning over the weekend. Yep, got it done. And this is where's Barack Obama? Where is Barack Obama to come out and say what a BFD this is? What a big freaking deal getting this Build Back Better mini plan done. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 passed through the Senate. Important piece of legislation. And I'm wondering, where's Barack Obama? Where is Barack to say that, hey, this took some skill. This took a lot more skill than it took to get the Affordable Care Act pushed through. Remember, Obama had 59 senators. You had 2 independents who caucused with Democrats. You had 57 Democrats and 51 Republicans. You got 2 independents. You've got 48 Democrats, and you've got 50 Republicans. You're in a 50-50 kind of world. Much more difficult to get legislation pushed through, and yet Joe Biden getting it done. So I got to tell you, surprised me. This guy getting up, doing the work, and for all of the messaging we hear out of the right wing about, oh, he's just slow and he's old and he's feeble, he's killing it. Absolutely killing it. And this Inflation Reduction Act, call it whatever you have to. Again, historic thing. Something done on climate change. We're going to actually do something. We've been talking about it since, what did I read? I read something that Daniel Patrick Moynihan wrote about this back in the 60s. That, hey, we should probably do something on this carbon thing. We might want to, I start addressing this. It was like 57 years ago. And we've done nothing, finally, this administration. And again, horribly unpopular, we're told. Everyone unhappy. In fact, I drive to work every day and I see like 5 or 6 people with the very family value F Joe Biden flags flying from their Christian flags, which is weird, very weird, But here's the thing: getting the work done, and this a big deal. Where's Obama? This is what I want to know. Where's Barack to come out and say, "Hey, nice job, Joe. Big deal." I want to hear it. I want to hear the words out of Obama's mouth. Put those comfortable shoes on you didn't use during your administration and get out there and push this, because this is a big deal. Doing something on the climate front, doing something to lower prescription drug prices for older folks, of which most of us are going to be at some point. Doing something, if your thing is if you're a deficit hawk, doing something on that part. Now the fighting inflation part, there's some arguments, but this a huge deal. Now, because of how screwed up our Senate is, they had to go through the budget reconciliation process. Had to do what you had to do. Again, this is the mastery of Joe Biden. Being able to keep those 50 cats all in the same plane, didn't have anyone decide that they were going to go off. That is a big accomplishment. Now, what we know from the numbers, there's going to be about $433 billion of investment. We're going to bring in about $739 billion in revenue, and they're going to use about $300 billion in deficit reduction. I know for our reduction fetishists, that will be music to their ears. But, this more than $300 million of investments in energy and climate reform, this is big. It is the largest federal investment in clean energy in the history of this country. That Again, where's Barack? BFD, man. Now understand, the Build Back Better plan had $550 billion of investment. That would have been better. But hey, $300 billion ain't bad. It's moving in the right direction. $60 billion of it will be for renewable energy, renewable infrastructure, building stuff, wind turbines, solar panels, those charging stations that we're going to need if everyone's going to eventually down the road have electric vehicles. Good idea. Also going to have some tax credits, because I know Republicans, they love tax credits, even though they weren't in favor of this bill. But the tax credits for electric vehicles and to help, folks, transition into better technology, to more efficient things for their homes. The heat and cool pumps for your homes, better energy efficient appliances and windows and stuff. I think is a good idea. Good idea. Also going to help the economy, create jobs. If we made those things here, that's the other part of this. I wish we made more of that stuff. And this might be a good idea to have a Buy American provision in this as well. So we encourage manufacturing. Now, Democrats are saying that these simple actions are going to reduce greenhouse gas emission by about 40% by 2029. The White House is saying they'd like to see that target 50%. We'll see. But again, historic. We haven't done this. And my entire life, we've been talking about how are we going to deal with the climate issue. As a kid, I remember Jimmy Carter putting solar panels in the White House. I also remember Ronald Reagan ripping them off. This is that moment. Now, here's the question. Are we in another one of these moments? Jimmy Carter saying, hey, we're gonna go in a different path. Country, we're going down a road that's going to secure the future for generations to come. Are we in a moment where we're making historic changes? Hey, we're going to invest in the future, only to have the next guy come along, whoever that is going to be, and completely undo it, and then make sure that we're on the dirty stuff for another 50 years, 40, 50 years. I hope not. Hope not. Also, this legislation going to lower prescription drug costs because, hey, we're going to negotiate for lower drug costs with Medicare. Not all of them, mind you. Evidently just 10 in 2026. So not in a big hurry to negotiate those drug prices, but it's coming. It's coming. And then in 2029, they're gonna double that up to 20 drugs. Yeah. There will be a cap on insulin costs, $35 for people on Medicare, just people on Medicare, not anyone else, and we'll get to that. Also caps out-of-pocket expenses at $2,000 for people on Medicare. Again, for someone who at some point hopes to be on Medicare, this is a good thing. Also a 3-year extension for the subsidies for the ACA, something we absolutely needed. Good stuff. Helpful. Moving us in a positive direction. Like it. Now, how are you going to pay for it? Because we hear Republicans all the time, how are you going to pay for it? Simple. Tax corporate America, who's been walking away from paying their share for a very long time. This alternative minimum tax should have been there all along. And there is a 15% on corporations that have profits over $1 billion. Not a lot of those. Not your mom and pops, so don't lose your mind. I heard a guy the other day say, I got a small business, and they're going to tax me. A minimum 50. I'm going, do you make it $1 billion in profit? No. Then shut up. Because this isn't you. This is the same argument that they were making about the estate tax. Everyone believes, I'm going to have to pay taxes when I die. Are we worth $11 million? Well, no. Then shut up. This is going to be on companies making over $1 billion who, like Amazon, who for years got away with paying zero. The current corporate tax rate is 21%. How is it the current corporate tax rate is 21%, but there's going to be a minimum of 15? How's that possible? Well, lots of loopholes. And we didn't close all those loopholes, so there's still a way to fudge the numbers. But we're saying, hey, if you make over $1 billion, you're going to have to pay 15%, unless you come up with another gimmick and move those profits probably somewhere else to shield it in a different way. I'm sure there will be another gimmick, but this is a pretty big win. It is a pretty big win. So pretty happy to see that. Now, for you fetishists on the deficit side, There will be money in there to lower the deficit. The Democrats are claiming it's going to help lower inflation. Republicans say it's going to make inflation worse. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says, it's going to be negligible, hit or miss. I'm in the hit or miss part, and I'm in the part where I don't care. This isn't what's in it for me. What's in it for me is we're doing something on climate. We're doing something to help seniors and Granny to get the drugs they need without going broke. We're making sure that the folks get health care, and we're taxing corporate America. All check, all good things in my view. So a start in the way, and look, the reality is Biden ran on this. These are pledges ticked off the box. He ran on, hey, we're going to cap the cost at $2,000. We're going to get the $35 insulin. Couldn't get the $35 insulin for everyone. And gee, I wonder why. Could it be what I always say? And that is Republicans hate working people. And the answer is yes. For the umpteenth time, Republicans hate working people. Because again, now I've yet to meet anyone who goes, insulin should be $500 a vial. That we shouldn't have a cap on $35 because it's like $10 to make, from what I'm told. I've yet to meet anyone who doesn't think it's a good idea to cap insulin at $35 because it's one of those life-saving things. But more importantly, it's one of those things that if you don't take it, it makes things a lot worse. So it's like a preventative thing, because if you don't manage your diabetes and you don't keep everything in check and you're not taking the insulin, then they start chopping things off you. And that's much more expensive in a whole bunch of worlds. Not a great idea. But Republicans decided that no, can't have this. The Senate parliamentarian ruled that this provision could not be in the reconciliation bill, and Republicans saw an opportunity to stick it to Democrats and ultimately to working people, and that's why this is not in the legislation. It can only be in the Medicare part. So working folk, you got screwed again. Why? Well, because Republicans hate working people. But this brings me back to this moment where, this administration, they've been killing it. I mean, and I said this last week, the fact that if Trump had, a half of these accomplishments, any administration, if they'd had these accomplishments this soon, they'd be tap dancing in the streets. But we've got a corporate controlled media structure in this country that's, the narrative is, Joe Biden's horrible. Joe Biden's, every bad thing is Joe Biden's fault. And the reality is this administration is just simply killing it. And look, on the foreign policy front, the next big win, they killed the Al-Qaeda leader we've been looking for over 20 years. There's talk that there's going to possibly be an agreement with Iran that maybe we're going to take down some of that heightened tension. There's some opportunities ahead. I'm guardedly optimistic, and I'm telling you, good stuff. Let's go to the phones. We got Julie in Minneapolis on the line. Julie, how are you today?
Hi. Well, I feel like I can breathe a little bit lighter today, just Good. A little bit, not much, but a little bit, because of this bill. I wanted to jump in with something. It's great that seniors are being helped, but also people on disability. Before COVID, we had about 7.5–8 million people who were on disability, either long-term or short-term disability, and those individuals get Medicare also. So those individuals, I would imagine now with long-term COVID, we might have 12 or 13 million Americans on disability, and they will be helped with lower prices with Medicare. I wanted to throw out, we know what Manchin got. Do you know what Kristen Sinema got as a goodie, getting together and doing this thing?
Yeah, didn't they chuck out the carried interest, thing? Didn't the hedge fund managers get to keep their carried interest? So that was one of the things.
I know the rich guys, they got everything, but specifically, what did she get for her state,
I don't. I thought that's what she wanted. That was the carried interest, the loopholes and all that.
Is that all she wanted? Oh, okay. That's it. Yeah. If anybody knows anything extra, I know. That's kind of amazing if that's the only thing that she wanted. I just read in the paper here that both of them got big gains for their states. So maybe that is all she got. But anyway, I know a lot of people are mad, but. I'm a little bit glad today.
What are you mad about? I mean, you got historic.
Well, I think a lot of people are mad about the fossil fuel give back.
Yeah.
They are. But I'm not thinking about that. I'll just have to say one more thing. I was a kid in school. I'm a boomer, so I'm older than you are, Rick. But I'm serious. The year was 1968, and I remember our teacher talking about the environment, some new thing. And there was a book called The Silent Spring that had been written, a year or two before, and he was very excited about it, and he was talking about it. And, wow, that was like 55 years ago, Rick. That's when I first started thinking about the environment.
Yeah.
55 years ago, Rick.
Yeah, and think about it. We're finally, after all this time, going to maybe start thinking about moving in a direction we're going to do something.
Yeah, let's hope and pray, like you say, the next guy that comes in doesn't destroy this. The only thing we can do is if we as a people, we just stand up and rebel. No, you're not going to destroy this. We can't let the next guy, we can't let the next Republican that becomes president destroy this,
Amen.
Right? That's the only thing we can do. Just stand up and say no.
That's it. Learn the lesson. Absolutely. Appreciate the call, Julie.
Thank you.
Outstanding
Bye.
stuff. No, I mean, that's the lesson right there. Learn the lesson of the Reagan years. Don't allow them to do it again. That's simple. But here's the thing. I'm not even all that upset with Manchin and Sinema because that's how our game is played. Our game is played by you use the leverage to bring things back, bring the bacon back to your state, because that's how you get reelected. I'm not one of those guys who, I'm against pork barrel spending or earmarks. No, I'm in favor of it. That's how we get museums and libraries and hospitals, and we evaluate what they bring back. Now I am interested to find out what. Thanks for that, Julie. Now I am interested to find out what Kirsten Sinema got outside of her handouts to Wall Street. If you know, email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Now I got to know. rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break right back after this. If you're just joining us, make sure you grab the podcast. Never miss a moment. Also, make sure you share with your friends. Wherever you find your podcast, you'll find ours. Right back after this. Stick around.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Here we are again. An overseas conflict hikes up our gas prices, and oil CEOs rake in record profits. It will keep happening until we break free from oil. Right now, we need Congress to ramp up production of clean, renewable energy sources. Energy that doesn't run out, so it costs families less. Energy that's made here in America. Energy that can't be manipulated by erratic dictators across the globe. Because real energy independence is built on clean energy.
So the big news of the day, if you were waiting for it, and it's a big one. The FBI today did in fact execute a search warrant of Mar-a-Lago. They went in. They searched the Trump's house. They actually, according to Trump, they broke into his safe. He could have opened it for him. He could have opened the combination, said there's what in it, but no. According to him, they broke into it, and I would argue that maybe that's because he made them do that. But he put out a statement that these are dark times for our nation as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago, in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. Yeah, well, we've never had kind of a criminal like you before who did as much criming. He says, after working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate. This is prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by the radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024, especially based on recent polls, and who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in upcoming midterm elections. He says such an assault could only take place in a broken third world country. Sadly, America has become one of those countries, corrupt at a level not seen before. I'd argue those 4 years, corrupt at a level never seen before, which is why we're seeing this going on right now. I do find it interesting that we see photos of documents that were ripped up and thrown into the toilet by Donald Trump, which evidently is his preferred method of disposal of documents. Now here's the weird part. I gotta wonder which FBI agent had to dig his hand down in the toilet to check the toilet for documents. I gotta wonder. Let's go to the phones real quick. We got Gary in Minneapolis on line 2. Gary, how we doing today?
Good. How you doing? The lady was on there. She was asking like Christian. I heard one thing Christian Cinema got for supporting the bill. It was money or help for drought relief in Arizona. And talking about environment also, what really bummed me out was when those judges stopped the voting and put in Bush over Gore, because Gore was really dedicated to that and was going to see what he could do on the vote.
Yeah, that would have been Sandra Day O'Connor. Yeah, thanks, Sandy.
Yeah, Gore did get 100-some votes more than Bush after they were done counting afterwards. So, anyway, I don't know. We're the only country, I think, where a person running for to be ahead of the country doesn't win the popular vote and gets in there a lot. So, well, I guess that's it. So, you have a good night.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. No, and look, you didn't hear Al Gore whining and complaining and say the whole thing was rigged when it really was. You go back to, and since Gary brought it up, you go back to what Jeb Bush did in Florida and Katherine Harris to relive that. They threw 90,000 people off the voting rolls because they said they were quote unquote felons. They weren't. They just happened to have names that sounded kind of similar. There was the whole voting while black scandal. And you think those 90,000 people would have voted a particular way, perhaps? Yeah, perhaps. But yeah, that's it's something we can't go back and change. But I looked today, the big news. What is this going to mean? What did the FBI find? I gotta wonder. Now, there's part of me that goes, would Trump really be dumb enough to leave things laying around at this juncture? Is he really that? No. Really? Well, we'll see. Hopefully we get to find out what's in this. Hopefully an orange jumpsuit is in the future, because I think he'd look good in orange. I think our Marmalade Mussolini would look good in an orange jumpsuit, picking up litter on the side of the highway, don't you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around.
The best way to strengthen America's economy? How about investing in America's fastest growing industry, clean energy? We're talking jobs, millions of them, the type that pay well and can't be outsourced. Because the thing about clean energy, it's all right here, American made. It means lower utility costs for families, and it's how we take on climate change. An investment in clean energy is a big win. Congress, let's get it done.
We've been farming the same farm for 3 generations, and it's just always been where I've wanted to be. Any farmer you talk to in Montana will tell you that the climate is definitely changing. The weather is way more extreme. We went from the wettest year we've ever had to this year with the worst drought we've had since the 80s. We've done everything we can to keep water going, but it got close to running out. Farmers can't afford the cost of climate change. Congress has to get this done.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
So big news. I mean, again, historic kind of deal. I mean, this is. I was just a little kid when Watergate was going on. I still remember the headlines in the newspapers and how, we as a country reacted. The fact that the former president of the United States, had the FBI raid his house, break into his safe. This is a big deal. I got to tell you, my mind went to one place. The story the other day broke that Trump's favorite way of disposing documents was tearing them up and flushing them down the toilet. I kept going, what FBI agent had to go digging his hand into the golden, who had to do that? And do you get paid enough for that? I don't think he does. I don't think anyone gets paid enough for that. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on the big story and possibly what this could be. Because this just wasn't a simple willy-nilly decision. I've asked Renato Mariotti to come talk with us. He's a former federal prosecutor, also host of the On Topic podcast. Hopefully he'll give us some insight on how this all played out. Renato, thanks for taking time for us.
Happy to be here, Rick.
So kind of a big, steal a Joe Biden frame, big freaking deal.
I would say so. There's a lot of hyperbole on the internet and on cable news about, explosive, this and that. There's no way to overstate how big of a deal it is when the feds raided the home of the former president. That's a pretty big deal.
Now, walk me through how that happens. I mean, because, I had someone say, well, this is Joe Biden. I'm going, I don't think Biden had anything to do with this. This is just Democrats. I'm going, no, I don't think so. There's a whole process. There's a bunch of steps that you have to go through to get the warrant. There's a lot to this. Now, you as a former federal prosecutor, I think you know those steps. Walk me through how difficult it is to do at this level. I mean, to come to raid my house, I'm sure it's probably a lot easier. But a former president, this has got to be something Herculean kind of leap.
Well, let's start with raiding the Rick Smith house. So if I was investigating Rick Smith, and I was at the Justice Department still, and I wanted to obtain a search warrant for your home, I would need to have evidence to show that to convince the judge there's probable cause that a crime had been committed. All right, so good reason to believe that crime had been committed, and that the evidence of that crime was somewhere in the Rick Smith household. Okay, that somehow there was evidence in your house. And by the way, the mere fact that you're committing crimes doesn't mean that you keep the evidence at your house. Like you actually need to show specific evidence of that. So I would work with an FBI agent. We would put together a detailed affidavit showing, for example, we're investigating the Rick Smith narcotics trafficking organization. There's cocaine in the house of Rick Smith or whatever. We've seen it. We've seen the bundles of cocaine go into the house just yesterday, that sort of thing. Then we would have to go to a federal judge, and that judge would have to determine that there's probable cause that a crime had been committed and that evidence of that crime was at your specific house right now. If, in other words, not 2 years ago, but presently. So how would it be different in case of a former president? Well, the difference is, in order to obtain a search warrant, before I even went to a judge, at the Justice Department, I would need to clear that with a supervisor. Like, I wouldn't just go off on my own, like, executing search warrants, going to the judges and trying to get search warrants willy-nilly. That affidavit would have to be reviewed by somebody, some supervisor at the Justice Department. You can imagine for the residents of the not just former president, we're not talking Jimmy Carter here, we're talking about the guy who was president just a couple of years ago. The former president of the United States, huge political figure, if you're going to get a search warrant of his house, you're going to need probably approval by the Attorney General himself, okay, and certainly from senior DOJ leadership. So I think a very carefully considered decision of the Justice Department, and then a neutral finding by a judge, which is required in any case, that there was probable cause that the evidence of a crime exists at that home.
Just for full disclosure, FBI, if you're listening, there is no cocaine at my house. There are no drugs whatsoever. I am not the head of a drug cartel. That was purely an example given by Renato Mariotti. I have never done any of those things. I never will do anything. Please don't knock down my door.
I love it. No, but you get it, right? I mean, even for anybody, that warrant requirement is a core of our constitutional protection that all citizens have as part of the due process that citizens in this country expect. And so I do think it's a big deal. And I will say, folks who are attacking this already reflexively, some of Trump's allies, I think they're really revealing something here. They're revealing their own bias because they don't know anything about the underlying investigation. Who knows what that investigation is unearthed, but we do know it's enough to get a judge to sign this thing. And an attorney general, who I don't think anyone would suggest is like a wild and crazy guy, super aggressive guy. I think I would consider him somebody who has a very calm, deliberative approach, a guy who had been a federal judge for over 20 years. He signed, he agreed to seek this search warrant. And so what it tells me, Rick, is a couple of things. I mean, one is, obviously, you don't need me to tell you. You don't need to be a lawyer to know that if the FBI is raiding your house in the morning, that's a really bad sign. That's bad news for you. You may need federal charges, maybe in your future. But separate and apart from that, it tells me that the Justice Department is pretty confident that there's something to their investigation, because I just don't believe that they would take this extreme of a step unless they thought they had something that would result out of this investigation, something significant.
Yeah. Will we find out what this was about? Will we eventually find out? Or is this something where there was a big to-do and then all of a sudden we never find out what happened or why?
Unless, I have to say, I'm sure we will find out one way or the other. Typically, if this was, for example, this Rick Smith case as opposed to the Donald Trump case, what I would say is we'll find out unless the investigation takes a turn where they realize, they were mistaken. Okay, if that happens, then the case goes nowhere. They decline to move forward, and that's it. In the case of Donald Trump, I'm sure we're going to find out one way or the other. But I would say that I would be surprised if the Justice Department took this step without feeling pretty confident that something was going to come of this.
So now, you as a former federal prosecutor and a level-headed guy, you've never been somebody who's off on a fringe, in my view. But Trump wrote in his statement, or whoever wrote Trump's statement, because I don't think he wrote this, but they said this is prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by the radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024. So this is the frame. It's not that potentially he probably has a stack of classified documents that he decided to steal on his way out the door. No, it's not that, because there have been stories of him, helping himself to things in the past. I'm curious your thoughts. Is this that?
No, I mean, I have to say, first of all, I just would say this too. Anybody who judges this investigation now is just obviously biased, in my opinion. We just don't know enough. We're basically, what I'm telling you today is basically all we really know about this, okay? We don't know a lot about this investigation right now. So I think anyone prejudging the matter is clearly biased. This has nothing to do with the left or Biden or any of that. This has to do with the FBI executing a warrant that was signed by a federal judge. And you can attack that. A lot of my clients, now that I'm in private practice, would love to attack search warrants that are executed at their homes, their offices. But the truth of the matter is that can be very difficult to do for a whole host of reasons. But one of which is that the FBI is usually pretty careful, and judges are pretty about seeking these warrants, and judges are careful about what they sign. And so I would reserve judgment, but I would just say that any serious person who's looking at this rationally would not be making those bizarre allegations.
My position is, holy, you know what? A former president had his residence raided by the FBI. That's enormous.
That's a big. Yeah, I mean, and you said I'm not kind of one of these hyperbole type people. There's a lot of that on the internet, and if you if you read a lot of Twitter, you'll listen to a lot of cable news, watch a lot of cable news. You'll hear that it sounds like every day Trump's going down for something or another. There's a lot of nonsense that gets baked into that, but this is legit. I mean, there is something to that. I mean, that I shouldn't need to convince anyone of. I think it's apparent on its face that if the FBI is raiding your house, you're in big trouble. It's that simple.
I think that's a basic truth of life. If the FBI is raiding your house, you're probably in trouble. That's one of those universal truths. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're here with Renato Mariotti, former federal prosecutor, host of the On Topic podcast. We'll get links out on social media. You can check that out. Highly recommended. The reason I had reached out to you originally, and I wanted to get to this because, I looked down in Florida. You have a governor down there in Ron DeSantis who has basically suspended this attorney because I guess he wasn't... How do you put this? He wasn't going to enforce the ban that isn't in place yet, and he wasn't going to go after transgender kids. So he has suspended this elected official who just happens to be a Democrat and replaced him with somebody that will do the assault work that DeSantis wants. Is this legal?
Well, yeah, you probably better ask a Florida lawyer, but I will just say that it generally speaking, people who are separately elected officials are themselves not beholden to and not subject to the whim of this is not a political appointee. This is like your local district attorney. And at least in the jurisdictions I'm licensed in, they can't be fired by the governor or the attorney general, someone like that. I will say that it's very common for prosecutors to make decisions about what they think is worth prosecuting and what they think is not worth prosecuting. There are plenty of cases that are never prosecuted at the federal level, for example, even though they're technically federal crimes. If you have 5 grams of marijuana, that's technically a federal offense. You just aren't going to find a lot of federal prosecutors wasting their time with that. If a local prosecutor doesn't want to prosecute parents of transgender kids or women who are seeking an abortion or something along those lines, that's generally within their prosecutorial discretion.
Now, the reason I brought this up and I wanted to talk to you about it is because this is the kind of thing that frightens me when you have this kind of an activist governor who's going to filter down to the local level and take that kind of judgment away from prosecutors and force this kind of ideology right down the line. I'm uncomfortable with that kind of authoritarian rule.
I can see why. And I almost think what it is he's trying to use the Trump playbook. He's a dangerous man in the sense that he's using the Trump playbook, but he's a lot more savvy about it. And what he's learned from Trump is that it doesn't matter if someone later on determines that this is illegal and that he can't go forward with it. He got his day of headlines out of it. He pleased the people who are mad at transgender Americans or whatever group he's trying to appeal to. And in the meantime, he's created a lot of confusion and wasted a lot of public resources on basically a stunt.
And do you think this person who has vowed to fight this suspension, do you think that person is probably may have a chance to win this? How do you see it happening?
I'm not licensed in Florida. I haven't looked at the exact issue in Florida law, but I will just say that I would be surprised if the governor could remove elected representatives. Otherwise, what's to stop a governor of a state removing every elected DA in a state? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that's where my mind was going. I mean, that's the fear, is that you end up having. Because I don't know if you know, but where I live in Pennsylvania, we've got a Nazi running for governor on the Republican side. And the fear is you end up with someone who is that kind of authoritarian who, we're going to cut education in half. We're going to, throw out the voting machines. We're going to appoint a Secretary of State who's going to, if we don't like the election results, we're going to change them. That kind of stuff. A little concerning.
Yeah, I can see why. And you got a guy, a New Jerseyite, running for your senator. So you've got a lot to be concerned about in Pennsylvania right now. I will tell you, I'm very thankful to be in a state where I'm not concerned about a governor or an attorney general doing something crazy like this.
Oh, sure. Okay, you can go ahead and gloat. Yeah, all right. Thanks.
Rub it in.
Rub it in, why don't you? But Renato, I appreciate the time and the thoughts. Last question on the Trump thing. Prediction, maybe, possibly, are we ever going to see him in an orange jumpsuit picking up litter on the side of the highway? Is that ever going to happen?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think it is now way more plausible that Trump will be charged. And as you know, I'm somebody who's very careful about saying that sort of thing. I really was very hesitant. If you asked me 6 months ago, I would have said probably not. But now, today, his home has been raided. My general advice to my own clients, because I'm now doing criminal defense, if their home or office is raided, I'm like, yeah, you are probably going to be charged. That's usually my default piece of advice, and it's a pretty good general rule of thumb.
Start planning for it, lawyer up, and then pack your toothbrush.
Yeah, exactly.
But Renato, I appreciate the time. As always, great stuff, my friend.
Thank you.
Good stuff, Renato Mariotti. Make sure you check out his podcast, the On Topic Podcast. We'll get links out on social media, how you can take a look at that. Quick break, right back with your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. This is The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
I took 2 years of electric in high school, and I was the only girl in the class there. Here, I'm the only girl as far as installers go. I'm a single mom, too. I joined the union because it gave me options for health care and life insurance so that I know my son's taken care of. I like what I do. This is the best job I've ever had. You think solar panels is more like California. You wouldn't think Appalachia would have any. It would be smart if the government would invest more in clean energy resources.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
I tell you, I'm a little disappointed that maybe you're not going to see Trump on the side of the highway picking up litter in an orange jumpsuit. That would be entertaining, if nothing else. Now, again, more of the Trumpkin news. You remember Paul Manafort? The chairman of Trump's campaign in 2016. He's now admitting that he did share confidential campaign polling data with Russian intelligence officers. He did. Now remember, just here minutes ago, the Trump statement is that whole Russia thing was a hoax. But you've now got, his former campaign chairman saying, yeah, I did. But it wasn't to interfere in the election. No. It was for business deals. It was so we could cash in. It was a whole different, my intentions were pure. Trust me. I want to get back into the game. Do you believe any of it? Answer, not a bit. But I do find it interesting on the same day. It's all a hoax. I didn't do anything wrong. And Manafort saying, yeah, so I did share it. So what? My intentions were good. Let's go to the phones. Got Alice on line 1. Alice, how are we doing today?
Oh, we're doing good. So I wanted to say this. So Trump and his little visit from the FBI, because it's supposed to be for mishandling of classified documents. If he's found guilty, something like that, by law, he's not allowed to run for office.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if maybe the Republican Party, this is their underhanded way of keeping him from blowing their chances in the midterm.
I like your thinking.
You got to think like a Republican. You do. And that was the first thing that I thought of. And I thought, gee, that sounds like something they would do. Maybe Marky Meadows or, somebody gave a little hint or a clue. Because I haven't seen anyone so far, none of the, usual loudmouths saying anything or flipping out on Twitter.
No.
So I'm just wondering.
No, you're right. I'm waiting for them all to turn on him and throw him under the bus. I've been waiting for that for a very long time. Even the kids. I mean, the fact that Ivanka kind of threw him under the bus during the January 6th hearings. I'm waiting for everyone to finally turn on him and pitch him under the bus.
Well, I don't think all of them will, because some of them are just too far gone. But, it just seems to me, any other time, you'd have had Mitch McConnell and, this one and that one and Marjorie Taylor Greene and everybody flipping out. And I've not seen anything yet on Twitter. So my mind, well, I'll put it to you like this. My son always says, I don't know how you do it, Mom, but somehow you are able to figure out who did what and what they're going to do next. So I don't know.
That's because you think.
But that's my thought.
That's because you think. Good stuff.
Yes.
Appreciate it, Alice.
Bye-bye.
No, I mean, I would not at all put that past them. Because if you stop and think about it, the Republicans have a Trump problem come November. He is a problem for them. And the best way to get rid of your problem, get rid of your problem. And this is part of it, because I do kind of agree that Meadows is probably the guy behind throwing him under the bus, because one, got to save his own skin. And, at the end of the day, when the rats start scurrying, they're going to sing. I've been waiting for that for a while, which is why there's been another hearing, and there are going to be more hearings, because more people are talking. And the more people start talking, the more the jailbirds start singing, they start pointing at other people. And they start singing. Which is why, evidently, Trump's been doing a lot of phone calls to a lot of people. Hey, gotta stay loyal. Interesting times. Interesting times ahead. Now, evidently, the guy I had referenced a moment ago, Doug Mastriano, the guy who is a Trump-endorsed Republican nominee for governor in my state of Pennsylvania, someone who I liken to a Nazi. Evidently, he will be testifying before the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection. Evidently, might not end up answering any questions over a dispute over his testimony. I'm not sure how this is going to go. They're in the process, I guess, of negotiating this deposition. But expected to testify. I think the voters of Pennsylvania should be able to see what their potential governor has to say. Also, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, is going to be in Pennsylvania I guess it's the 18th of August to stump for DeSantis in Pittsburgh, and we will be in Pittsburgh for that day. Netroots Nation is having their conference. We're going to be broadcasting from Netroots Nation in Pittsburgh. I think it's the 18th, 19th, and 20th. If I'm not mistaken, we will be there for that event, and we get to go to the Nazi rally. I'm excited about going and seeing that. Good times. Get to go to an actual Nazi rally. That's going to be fun, and I'll be able to bring you that as well. Also, all of the texts, evidently from Alex Jones, have been turned over to the January 6th Commission. I'm waiting for that. And also on the text front, it's amazing how Alex Jones was dumb enough to keep all of his texts, but everyone in our government seems to have deleted theirs. Just kind of wondering. Interesting coincidence. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, our good friend, former Ohio Congressman Bob Ney, going to be here to share some thoughts. Maybe he's got a thought or two on the former president's dilemma. Back after this.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. Then the Teamsters pushed the law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind. The union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
You listen to the Rick Smith Show here with Bob Ney, former Ohio Congressman, political analyst. And last thought I want to get from you. Evidently, I don't know if you've been following the story from New York State. Evidently, we're making polio great again.
Oh, I thought you meant the governor sending the migrants.
Well, there's that too, but polio, we're making polio great again, Bob. It's coming back
because of the vaccinations, the lack of.
Yeah. Bunch of crazy anti-vaxxers are bringing polio back.
Well, in fact, the Community Center for Disease Control has sent a team to New York to investigate, the polio. It was in one of the counties there, and they're also going to administer some vaccinations in the county. So that they sent the CDC in to do that because that's where the case was in I think it was
Rockland County, just north of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just
I'm
north
not
of the
familiar
city.
where that's at in New York.
It's just north of New York City, just north of the city. So it's within. People are driving back and forth. I mean, it's. I thought we had eradicated polio. I never in a million years we're worried about this again. But evidently,
this is first case in over a decade. So that means that the person that was unvaccinated was, obviously got infected, and we don't want to go through that again in the United States. That's for sure.
And there's the part of me that goes, you know what? I don't care. I really don't. I hope all of the people who didn't get the vaccine. I hope I hope you get it. I hope you enjoy it. Good luck. My problem then becomes I then know that it gets stronger. It then jumps the vaccine, and then now we got another huge problem. All because a couple of yahoos and nitwits go, no, I did my research by sitting on the can reading Facebook posts by some other nitwit.
Well, we know from our history that based on any outbreaks we've ever had of polio, from the time it began to the time it was being taken under control, and this is what New York needs to be aware of, that every case you get, one case of what they call the paralytic polio, where you can become paralyzed or, one leg or two legs, there may be possibly hundreds of other people infected per one case.
Yep.
Right?
No, that's what they're saying.
This is just the beginning of a tip of an iceberg of a horrible, horrible situation. And that's why the Center for Disease Control is in there, big time, trying to see what happens to get a handle on it, right away.
It's always the weakest link, Bob. It's always the weakest link that tears you down. But as always, appreciate the time, my friend.
Thank you.
Look, I'm reading this story and I'm going, really? And the thing that gets me is, and I know a number of anti-vaxxers who are proud of the fact that they're stupid, and they're proud of the fact and loud about it. Now, look, I get, hey, I'm not going to get the vaccine. I may have a problem here or there. And you keep that to yourself. But to in a room full of people, announce, in the most boisterous and loud way, showing that you're a moron. I struggle with that. And then organize and to find other morons. This is how we end up where we are. this is how this is sadly the world that has become. And it's as good as the internet's been, there's some bad things. Scary times ahead. And I keep coming back to we, the silent majority, the folks who just want to have nice things, who want to get up and go to work every day, raise your family, be reasonable. We got to vote. You got to convince others to go and vote. Too many people stay out. Too many people, say, I got better things to do. You got to vote, because the dim, they seem to be organizing, and they seem to be multiplying. Just my thought. Love to hear yours. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you download the podcast. Wherever you find yours, you'll find ours, from iTunes to iHeart, Stitcher to Podbean, anywhere in between. There we will be. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.